its end, I thought like, okay, what's next? And there was a reason why I wasn't really so happy in a large services organizations. And that is something that on one hand is highly innovative, and on the other hand it is highly needed. We were five co-founders who started it then. It is not only that the students are engaged and motivated that I met, but they delivered really good work. Every time I feel like, okay, I've learned most in the room today. I couldn't leave it at that, so I said we need to make it around responsible innovation. And then we can decide whether an innovation is a good thing or not.
Hello and welcome everyone to another breathtaking episode of IRE Talks Podcast powered by GIBS Business School. I'm your host Palak Bansal, and today as we mark the success of our recent Global IRE Summit, we have a special guest with us. From all the way from Switzerland, we have Dr. Ernst today on the IRE Talks Podcast. He comes from the picturesque landscapes of Switzerland, and he brings a wealth of experience in the realms of innovation, research and education. So join us as we follow Dr. Ernst on his journey through the corridors of IRE, where every interaction is an opportunity to learn, to collaborate and to push the boundaries. Stay tuned. Welcome to the IRE Talks powered by GIBS Business School, Dr. Ernst. It was a true pleasure to host you on all these 2 days for the Global IRE Summit. Now, before we get into the topic and we discuss in detail, what I would like to know from you is how do you relate to the topic, the responsible innovation and entrepreneurship? So how does your organization, that is the Humanistic Management Network, how is it relevant, and what is the idea behind that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for the invitation. I thoroughly enjoyed these last 2 days, and I very much hope I'll be back before long. It's a great place, so it was nice to experience the spirit of the students and the whole way that you're operating here at GIBS. I think is special and is commendable. So it's a pleasure to be here, and we are the Humanistic Management Network, as you said. And let me highlight two things, perhaps. One, what is humanistic management? And then secondly, what is the Humanistic Management Network? How do we work, and how is it set up? We're set up as an association, so we're a non-profit association based in Switzerland, but we work, live and act through local chapters in countries around the world. So we have very active chapters in Colombia, in the UK, in Poland, in Austria, in Nigeria, South Africa, Japan, China, and India, of course, and I'm sure I forgot one or two, but we are active around the world, and our India chapter is one of the most active ones that is just producing a wealth of activities that allow me once in a while to come here as well and have an experience like we had over the last 2 days. So that's who we are as the Humanistic Management Network. And now, what is humanistic management? Humanistic management is the attempt to provide a support mechanism for business organizations in order to make a positive contribution towards a more equitable and more sustainable planet. Those are the two main challenges we are confronted with as a global community. The environment, of course, climate change, as we hear a lot in the media currently, but it is bigger. We're also looking at the quality of air, the quality of soil, the quality of water, biodiversity depleting, and so forth. And business can and ought to play a role in supporting the finding of solutions to this environmental challenge. And secondly, I call it distributional challenge. So the question of how do we distribute, both within communities, within countries and all around the world, how do we distribute access to the things that allow people to live a life that they want to live, which is access to healthcare, access to housing, access to education, access to clothes, access to food, access to clean water. And of course money. But if we're looking at distribution, I think we're always focused on income, on money. And money is just an instrument to allow for these things, whereas in reality we're looking at how do we distribute access to things that matter to people in life. And that's what we want to support, the role of business in contributing positively to these challenges. And we do that through 3 steps that we call the 3-stepped approach to humanistic management, which is firstly the unconditional respect for the dignity of life. Secondly, the integration of ethical questions in management decisions. And then thirdly, the active and ongoing engagement with stakeholders. How does that relate to the topic of the workshop here and the things we've done over the last 2 days? And then I'll come to an end. Sorry, I'm talking too long.
That's all right.
It relates as in that I think this approach of saying the legitimacy of a business and the real purpose of a business should be to empower, to enable, to support people's capacity to live in self-determination, to live a dignified life. And that is something that on one hand is highly innovative, and on the other hand it is highly needed, and on the third pragmatic side it is what we've been talking about over the last 2 days here.
So how did you come up with this? Like, how did you build a mainframe wherein you identified this as a need of the global community, and then you decided that, okay, this is something which I would like to go forward with, and this is where my entire career aligns.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with that decision?
It's not a straightforward story, like from my personal side. It was never a linear career path that I had. I started after my studies in London. I started working in consulting. I was in the strategy group of Accenture for a few years. Wow. Doing management consulting, and it was a tremendously enriching and positive experience for me. But at some point I thought, like, is this what I want to do for the next 30 years or so? And the answer was no. And as you can see now that I'm here. And so I went back to university to do my PhD, and as the PhD got closer to its end, I thought, like, okay, what's next? And there was a reason why I wasn't really so happy in a large services organization. So just taking the PhD as a break and then going back into a large service organization, I thought is maybe not what I should be doing. And then I was fortunate enough that we met a few other people who were doing their PhDs in St. Gallen at the university in Switzerland. And one of them actually had the idea to say, let's found this thing called Humanistic Management Network, which we were 5 co-founders who started it then and grew it from there.
Wow, that's an amazing, I think, journey, deciding upon leaving that career, that, you know, glorious career that you had, and then walking into this domain. I think that's very noteworthy of you. Now, you know, coming back to our Global IRE Summit that we had. So post that, you also had a chance to interact with our students, you know, where they would have presented their ideas. So just to give you, you know, a run through about the IRE program, under which all these first year students, they are divided into 30 teams. They have their own business ideas, and I'm sure you were exposed to a few of them, if I'm not wrong. So how was your experience? Like, when you interacted with them, when you heard all those business ideas, and how would you put it forward to us?
Impressed is
Wow.
one word that I would use here, because it is not only that the students are engaged and motivated that I met, but they delivered really good work.
Wow.
And they were fun to be with. So basically everything you want from a student group, I found here, right? They were high caliber students in their work. They were a joy to be with and to spend time with, and I think the spirit of this school is reflected in the behaviors and in the way the students were acting over the last 2 days. So I had a lot of fun, and I learned interesting things. You see, there's a saying, the teacher always learns most.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Every time I go somewhere new, and I'm fortunate to really be at universities all over the world, every time I feel like, okay, I've learned most in the room today. And I think that was the same with this interaction. I've learned a lot from the students. I've learned about how they're looking and viewing at sustainability issues and questions. I'm pretty confident that they're going to do better than my generation when it comes to the sustainability and social questions that we have to address more productively and more actively, also from the business community. And so it was a great time I had.
So just to give a brief to our audiences who are watching this, for Dr. Ernst workshop, we had selected 30 top students from our PGDM batch who were a part of this workshop, which started yesterday after the Global IRE Summit and ended today.
Today?
Yes.
We're still waiting for the certificates.
Yes, we are still waiting for the certificates. So what was the workshop about? Let's know it from him directly. So what was the concept of it, and what models were covered in the workshop,
yes.
and what was the outcome expected?
Right. The workshop was framed around innovation and entrepreneurship, and coming from the Humanistic Management Network, being so passionate about a more sustainable and more equitable planet, I couldn't leave it at that. So I said we need to make it around responsible innovation, about purpose-driven innovation, because I think we're sometimes a little too much in love with innovation. And we don't realize that innovation in itself is not good. It's not bad either, it's neutral. Innovation in itself, we need to look, what will this innovation deliver? What will it do? Who will it enable or hinder in doing what? And then we can decide whether an innovation is a good thing or not. But an innovation in itself need not be good. There's no shortage of examples of innovations, things that are really highly innovative, that have never been done before, that are revolutionizing either business models or products, but no one needs that product, or it even harms people's ways of living a life they would want to live. So for me, it is important that when we're talking about innovation, we reflect a little deeper than just saying like, oh, innovation is great no matter what. No, it is not. Innovation becomes great when it is purpose-driven, when it delivers on something that people want or need, that makes people's life richer, easier, more convenient, and that makes our planet more sustainable. That's the type of innovation we want. And that was the framing for the last 2 days for the workshop we have had. So the students were tasked not just to think about an innovation, but they were tasked to develop and deliver a purpose-driven innovation, an idea for a purpose-driven innovation.
So what were some ideas that the students pitched, and which do you think you liked the best?
I can't say which I like best. I think they were all interesting. They all had their strengths in different areas. And the good thing is that they really covered a whole area of different types of businesses, of business ideas, and of purpose-driven innovations. We had one idea of a one-stop shop for farmers.
Wow.
Where farmers can, through one app, rent farming equipment, receive services, training in farming, and so forth. So the whole palette of external support or rental of machinery they can get from one single app. And my question, of course, was, well, how does the internet penetration look? How does mobile penetration look in rural farming communities? And they told me by now, pretty much we can assume that most, not all, but most farmers will have, even if they don't have a phone, they will have access to someone who does.
Yes.
So I think that was a fantastic idea. There was one idea to highlight, just 2-3 more. There was one idea around an insurance offer for upskilling. So people that lose their job are not sitting there not knowing what to do, but they are basically being picked up from that new situation, which is hard, which is frustrating, which is very much making you question yourself also. And to pick people up there and say you have an insurance which will allow you to enter straight out of the job that you no longer have, enter training and upskilling, so that you will then be again more attractive on the labor market, and that whilst you apply and find a new job, you skill yourself further. We had something around construction, renewable and sustainable construction of residential buildings, bamboo clothing.
Wow.
If we're looking at the cotton industry and how water intensive it is, and also how much care and labor cotton plants need versus bamboo. Then bamboo is just an amazing plant that we can use much more for making fabrics.
Yes.
And so they were more, and they were all very good, but I don't want to spend the next half hour just talking about these examples. But it was impressive, it was interesting, and they all delivered really good work.
It's surprising how the students that we are talking about here, they are in their 20s, like early 20s, and the kind of ideas, the kind of thought process that they've already developed, it is somewhere way beyond their ages. That comes with a lot of experience, and I hope you would agree to that as well, coming from this domain altogether in sustainability, innovation, entrepreneurship. So do you think programs like IRE, where every Friday these students are exposed to holistic entrepreneurship altogether, do you think that somewhere frames that thought process for these youngsters, as you said, gives them a purpose or gives them a direction? Do you think that is important for any B school, or how did you find it? Like, what was your take on that when you got to know it?
A fantastic idea, first of all, and secondly, it shows. So it's not just a good idea, but if you have the interactions with the students, if you're looking at what they deliver, if you're looking how they work, it just seems evident that they have had a good exposure to practitioners, that they have learned and interacted with people who are having a business career, and not just to academics who are talking about having a business career.
Correct.
And that shows in a positive way. And of course we need both. We need both. This is not an argument for saying we don't need the academic part of an education. That is an important part as well, but I think it is a very good way of complementing the theoretical learnings by having this regular and established way of interacting with practitioners. And I think the benefits are there for the students, and my guess would be that they also enjoy it quite a bit.
Definitely they would have. I mean, you've given such a great overview of the entire workshop in 2 days that you've conducted. I was excited to hear all the ideas that they have come up with and the way that interaction would be. So I think having that experience firsthand, definitely it would have been an exciting opportunity. Now, coming towards the end of the discussion, what would be your giveaway message to our audience, who are watching this? Now, again, they are a mix of all these young professionals, still finding direction, people who are determined in their lives to do something. So what would you like to guide them this way?
This way?
Yes.
It's always a hard question to me, because this is like one size doesn't fit all. One thing I would definitely say, because one size doesn't fit all, listen to yourself, stay true to yourself. Don't try to follow a career path because other people tell you that's what you ought to be doing. You need to listen to your inner self and find happiness and find fulfillment in what you're doing. If we're looking at from the career perspective, because after all we are in a business school here, yes. We need to realize that you'll be spending between 8 and 12, 14 hours sometimes at work. If this is something that you don't enjoy, if this is something that you are not getting fulfillment of, it will be a very painful process. So don't listen so much to what others think you should be doing. Of course, seek their advice. Of course, have an exchange and talk to people who know you. But in the end of the day, you need to find something that you can be happy at and that you can engage with and that you can be motivated by. And the good news here is, if that is ticked, if those boxes are ticked, if you find this by listening to yourself, you will be good at it too. Chances are that you will be successful and that you will be good at what you're doing if it's something that you genuinely enjoy, where you're intrinsically motivated to do it, are much higher than when you're starting a career only because people say, like, this is what you should be doing, this is what you ought to be doing. So that is one thing. Listen to yourself when you make career choices and reflect once in a while. I would say take some time off and reflect whether you're still doing what you want to be doing with your life, and do that on a regular basis. I think that is something that is tremendously important, to not find yourself suddenly you've grown old and you've never done what you really wanted to do in life. And the third thing I would say is don't forget what matters most in life.
Yes.
If we're looking at what drives happiness, of what drives people's self-fulfillment, it is meaningful human interactions. You can be the richest person on the planet, you can be the most famous person on the planet, you can be the most successful person on the planet by whichever measurement you want to apply. If you don't have meaningful human interactions, you will not be a happy person. So don't forget to spend time with friends, to invest in friendships, and to make sure that you realize along your career that you can't beat a meaningful interaction with people who you love and who love you.
So that, I think, was a wow moment. If I had to give a one-sentence takeaway from this entire discussion that we have had, that would be human to human. So I think that's what at GIBS we stand by, and that's something that Dr. Ernst stands by, that is human to human. Technology, AI, everything is meant to support this human to human interaction, not replace it. So if you liked today's IRE Talks episode, please do go subscribe to our channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and I, Palak Bansal, your host, would be back with another learning-packed episode soon. Thank you so much for being a fantastic audience, and thank you so much, Dr. Ernst, for being a part of this episode today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.